Since the release of the SSC 813 speed timer in 2021, it has been one of the best-selling watches for Seiko. So when I got word at the end of last year that it was going to be discontinued, it had me along with other collectors scratching our heads. So why would Seiko cut one of their star players without warning? Well, it turns out that Seiko has just released 3 new Prospect speed timer chronographs while phasing out the SSC 813, the golden tan dial SSC 817, and the black SSC 819. And some other comforting news is that these new models offer virtually the same wear experience while bringing some new dial variants into the fold for this beloved chronograph. And for this video, we're gonna be looking at the 3 new models and then comparison to the SSC 813. I have all of them in front of me, and I really needed them all in front of me to really discern some of the differences here. So now let's dig into the new speed timer lineup with a look at the SSC 961, the 963, and the 965. While perhaps not getting maybe as much love as their Swiss peers, the original speed timer was one of the first automatic winding chronographs to market in 1969, competing with the Zenith El Primero and the Caliber 11 consortium that included Breitling, Heuer, Buren Hamilton, and Dubois de Praz. And as a result, the 6139 based Seikos hold an important place in horological history among the collector community. The pioneering speed timer featured a vertical clutch column wheel chronograph movement, a 30-minute single register layout, a day-date complication, and an internal rotating bezel. A distinctive gold dialed version was nicknamed the Pogue, featuring a red and blue Pepsi bezel, and it became stuff of legend as the first automatic chronograph in space, gaining its nickname from Colonel William Pogue, who wore his personal Seiko in 1973 on board NASA's Skylab, in addition to his official issue Omega Speedmaster. Now, while the original 6139 is gone, Seiko's contemporary speed timer lineup includes a host of different references, from higher-end mechanical models as part of the Lux series, to the hugely popular solar-powered quartz chronos in a range of sizes and colorways. But it's the 39mm SSC 813 that has captured the hearts of collectors, with its black on white dial evoking those classic exotic dial panda chronographs of the mid-20th century. It's no wonder that this version of the modern speed timer has been such a blockbuster hit for the brand, earning a slot in our most collected under $1,000 video, as well as coming as the runner-up in our most recent Seiko tournament. All of this just added to my confusion when I got the word that these were going to be discontinued. What reportedly led to the change was Seiko switching the responsibility of manufacturing to another one of their factories to produce the watch. So they decided to give the piece a new reference in the process. So for the most part, these watches are nearly exactly the same. However, there are some small details to call out, as well as introducing the new variations as part of the trio. Since the dials are where we're going to see the biggest changes to the speed timer lineup, let's start there. The new dials now feature a textured sandblasted finish in contrast to the smoother renditions of the legacy speed timers. Now, if you're a fan of the White Panda SSC 813, the good news is that the new SSC 961 offers much of the same in terms of the look and feel. The dial's tones now shows a slightly more muted eggshell color with a hint of silver in the process, suggesting a more aged appearance, bringing a vintage-leaning look when compared to the brighter white of the SSC 813. Now, collectors who long for the retro chronograph feel will be pleasantly surprised by the subtle change, amplified by the tone of lume, which now has a more aged Lumibrite patina in contrast with the paler tone of the SSC 813. The final change on the dial I will call out, which is a significant improvement and upgrade in my opinion, is how the solar cell is much more hidden in the subdials of the new 961 as opposed to the old 813, where at certain lighting angles in that previous version, you could see the solar cell quite easily. It's also important to note that there are 2 new contenders that come along with these updates, starting with the SSC 963. So Seiko is bringing more of a contemporary look with their latest additions and has dubbed the updated lineup with the Young Timer nickname. The Young Timer name stems from car culture mostly, referring to collectible enthusiast cars from the late 80s to the early 2000s, such as the BMW E30 and the Volkswagen Golf GTI, as well as other various Japanese performance cars of that era. And the new pastel shade suits the moniker perfectly, with the SSC 963 done in a warm pale pink that veers towards a salmon. The third option is perhaps the most striking, the textured mint green of the SSC 965. So the 965 is gonna take a more desaturated approach to this colorway compared to a lot of other brands going this route. So apart from the new colorways and the color of the lume on the dial, the layouts are going to remain largely the same. You have a black printed minute track that sits on the dial's dial's perimeter, with the hours marked by faceted applied indices featuring lume plots at the cardinal points. Further inward, you'll find a trio of black subdials hammering home the Panda style. And considering that these also serve as apertures for the solar-powered photoelectric cells, they have a very faint translucent purple cast, albeit it will not show any of the linear grid pattern like the 813 did. At 3 is a 24-hour counter not tied to the chronograph, but the time. An odd choice, but it serves as a sort of AM/PM indicator common in quartz-powered chronos. At 6 is the 60-minute register, slightly smaller than the other two, and it offers the added functionality of a gas gauge power reserve indicator when the chronograph isn't in use. A running seconds register sits at 9, and all 3 subdials feature white printing and stick hands. The lume fence post hour and minute hands are all black on the white and the mint dials and are going to be silver toned on the pink. The arrow pointed chrono hand takes a similar approach, although the hand on the pink version features a black tip. Dial text is kept minimal with an applied Seiko word mark and printed Prospex X below 12. And finally, an unframed date window sits at the somewhat divisive 415 position on the dial, steering clear of the sub-registers, but it is going to be seated very low underneath that dial because of those solar cells. So no news is probably good news for most people that like the SSC 813 because you're basically getting the same case structure as the previous version. Now, dimensions are unchanged at 39 millimeters in diameter with a case height of 13.3 millimeters and a trim lug to lug of 45.5 millimeters, making these some of the easiest wearing chronos, especially given the price segment. The traditional lines of the stainless steel case are familiar, as is the finishing, with the circular brushing on the front faces and a high polish on the case sides with no transition bevel in between. A dome sapphire crystal brings further nostalgia to the proceedings, and the view is clear with the inclusion of an anti-reflective coating on the underside. Water resistance is rated to 100 meters with a solid screw-down case back and an unsigned push-pull crown at 3. The crown features a well-ridged grip and embossed circular design on the face, bringing a bit more visual interest. A pair of pump-style pushers sit on either side of the crown at the 2 and 4, perfectly functional. It is a bit spongy though in their feel compared to the more decisive snap of mechanical chronographs. The white and pink chronograph references both feature the same black IP-coated steel tachometer bezel from the now discontinued SSC 813 surrounding the dial, but the mint version offers one of the most delightful surprises of the new lineup with a plain bezel that utterly nails the throwback aesthetic. I actually like this configuration a lot, and I hope that Seiko utilizes this on future models going forward. All 3 appear on a 3-link stainless steel bracelet that appears the same as the one on the SSC 813, with brushed solid links adjusted by pins. The 20 millimeter wide bracelet tapers slightly to 18 millimeters where it meets that shorter outer clasp, which is constructed from both stamped and milled components. In operation, the bracelet does what it should do and feels secure. It supplies no half links, but you do get 2 points of micro adjustment, which will require a spring bar tool to actually change. This bracelet certainly is a step up compared to the entry points to the brand. However, it is far from what I would call a world beater. Fortunately, the 20 millimeter lug width offers nearly endless room for experimentation. Now flipping the case around, we have a closed case back, which for the most part will mirror the original model, but you do get a slight variation in where the text is going to be displayed with some of those other elements around the periphery rather than the center. So this is going to be the only change from the style on that case back. Now, as far as the movement within the new speed timers, Seiko has wisely stuck with a winner in the solar-powered V192, the same one that powered the previous generation. Now, this quartz chronograph movement is a solid performer that trades the romance of a mechanical caliber for convenience, thinness, service costs, and robustness. Getting a mechanical chronograph movement in this price segment is going to be rather difficult, especially from a Japanese brand like Seiko, and it's going to come with some concessions in the process. And I think a big reason why the speed timer sells so well is given the lack of mechanical chronographs under $1,000. You have the speed timer name to go along with it, but a lot of it comes down to dimensions and serviceability as well. This watch is not going to cost nearly as much as a mechanical chronograph, which could cost more than the watch itself under $1,000 if you went that route, but also the dimensions of the speed timer are fantastic, and that certainly is the case here, continued with these new variations. Although the V192 isn't a mecha chrono movement, the chrono hand does feature a fairly smooth sweep, even if you don't get that crisp, instantaneous return to 0. In fact, the speed timer's movement can time down to 1/5 of a second increments, as well as 5 ticks per second action of the chronograph hand, which equates to around the movement of an 18,000 vibration per hour type of caliber, just like many vintage chronographs. Now, beyond that, another reason why I think this is a great route for Seiko is that you're utilizing solar power here, or power power through light. And with that will enable this to bypass the typical changes that will be necessary for batteries as they become depleted. Performance is rated to plus or minus 15 seconds per month. You can stop the seconds at the farthest position, so it does hack, we'll say here, and it boasts 6 months of power reserve on a full charge. You can also see the reserve anytime the chrono is inactive just by checking the full and empty markings on the 6 o'clock totalizer at 6. Press that 4 o'clock pusher when at that stop position to see it quickly. And then when the chronograph is activated, the subdial's function switches over to a minute counter. Since the V192 charges with available light, if you do wear the speed timer regularly, you're not going to have to worry to check that tank too often too. Now, another important point regarding this movement is that it also allows for adjustments to any misalignments that could occur to the hands. I had some people that would purchase the 813 from us in the past, and there was like some confusion after a period of time where the hand maybe got slightly misaligned. You can actually do this yourself so that it's always in perfect alignment. All you have to do is pull the crown out all the way, hold the 2 o'clock pusher, and then by pressing the 2 o'clock pusher again, you can cycle through the different hands to set the alignment with the help of the 4 o'clock pusher. If you hold it down, you're able to make larger individual changes. And if you have smaller precise changes that need to be made, just press the button once to make those changes in smaller increments. So when Seiko announced that they were going to discontinue such a best-selling fan favorite in the speed timer range and go for a new reference family, I was pretty concerned because first, I didn't even know there was a new reference family. What I have stated for years is for under $1,000, if you want to go for a chronograph, I do believe still to this day, the speed timer is the best value for money that you're going to be able to go after when you consider all of the factors that someone might be considering when looking at a chronograph. One is going to be the challenges of wearability. Most Valjoux calibers and other chronographs on the market are going to, just for the movement themselves, be 7.5 to 8 millimeters thick. It's going to be hard to have the wearability line up with where many collectors want. So that's one point. Then you have the whole servicing angle to chronographs, which costs considerably more than what a 3-hand movement would cost. A simple Valjoux, hundreds and hundreds of dollars. Sometimes it can cost more than the speed timer itself to service one of those watches. And then you have the factor of the name and credibility that comes with Seiko and the speed timer family, its historical context to what it was bringing forth with chronographs and their history. And beyond all of it, just being able to deliver at a price range where most brands are not playing when it comes to chronographs, while getting solar charging in the process so you don't have to worry about it. A couple things I will just bring up just from a change standpoint is just going to be some of those subtle dial details. I promise you though, if you see this across the room and you saw someone wearing an 813 or a 961, you would not be able to tell the difference until you were able to get that off that person's wrist and handle them side by side. And even then, you still might not be able to tell the differences here. It's that small in separation between these two watches. So if you were somebody that was looking to get the 813 and are now upset that you now have to pivot over to another model, it's not a big concern at all. This is something that is going to be basically a one-to-one on many accounts. If anything, the new version is better because of how they're able to obfuscate the solar cell on the inside of those different registers. It's much more seamless. So in summary, this watch, in my opinion of it, is basically my opinion of the speed timer SSE 813. Yeah, there's some small points. It's going to perhaps not deliver in some of the fine embellishments with the date window being seated farther below. The bracelet is just okay. It's definitely a step up compared to some of the other Seiko models. But ultimately, this is probably the safest and best choice for someone that's trying to get into the world of chronographs under $1,000 from a major brand. Without question, you have the history to go along with it. You have the ease of serviceability, set it and forget it type of accuracy, while also getting a watch that looks good in the process. But all right, guys, that's my video here looking at the new Seiko speed timers. I know there's not much to react to, at least on the new white dial version of the 961 compared to the 813, but the two new dial colors I think are nice additions to the speed timer family. And I'm actually very relieved after I heard that they were gonna discontinue this model, that we were able to get a replacement that basically is a one-to-one replacement of it. If you guys have been able to purchase these watches, and we just got some of these in, so this is something that's still very new for the watch market, but if you've gotten one of these in your possession, you added it to your collection, I'd love to see some personal ownership stories in the comments down below, as well as the 813, because there are a lot of similarities here in those watches. I think that will be helpful for people that are on the edge of maybe deciding on one of these pieces. If you enjoyed this video, please give this one a thumbs up, subscribe, hit the bell icon. Really do appreciate that. Also check out teddyballister.com, full authorized dealer for over 35 brands, including Seiko. Every purchase from our website comes with quick and fast fulfillment, dedicated customer support, and a full factory warranty for all the products that we offer. But guys, thank you again so much for watching. Be well, and I will see you all very soon.